For today's webinar, the topic is how to find the time for continuous improvement. Our presenter today is Rebecca Kennedy. Rebecca is the Director and General Manager of CTPM. She is an organizational development and change management professional with a track record in delivering major business transformation programs. So let's get started. We hope you enjoyed today's webinar, and I'll now pass you over to Rebecca.
Thanks, Nelson. Okay, let me show my screen. Okay, so our first webinar for 2018. Welcome, everybody. For those who haven't attended these free webinars before, we run these each month to give you a quick overview and insight into different topics around continuous improvement and lean. And today's focus is how to find the time for continuous improvement. A big challenge for all of us in this world is to find time for most things. So what we're going to look at today is the strategies we use to find time for continuous improvement. So to start with, we'll do a quick recap on the core principles of lean. I like to do that with each webinar just to reiterate what the focus is of lean and continuous improvement. We'll then do a quick intro on what a continuous improvement strategy should include, what those key parts are, and then reactive improvement through daily management. So straight into our core principles of lean. As I said, I like to reflect on these each webinar just to get us all on the same page as to what we're trying to achieve. So lean is all about putting the customer at the heart of the business, of everything that we do. So end to end, we should be defining value from the customer's perspective. And that needs to be understood for all the products and services that we offer. We then want to observe our processes. So linking back in with time and finding time, we often get so busy in just doing rather than taking a step back and saying, is that the best way? So with lean, we want to actually observe our processes and look at all the steps that it takes to fulfill those customer needs. When we do that, we're then able to make those processes more efficient. And once again, look at, are we actually adding value to the customer in every step that we're doing? And if we're not adding value, then what is the purpose of it and how do we remove that? We then have to strengthen our performance systems and measures. So this is all around making performance and targets, all levels of the business, transparent to ensure effective deployment of resources and to encourage root cause problem solving. So measurements allow us to see whether we actually are achieving what we set out to. So often in our heads, we'll get to the end of the day and say, yep, I did those things, but without looking back at measurements and linking those to the goals of the organization and making sure our customer, the value's there, how do we actually know we're achieving? So it's all about putting measurements in place and actually using them to help us problem solve and discuss what we're doing. The next one's empowering people. Lean is a key driver of people. To have a continuous improvement culture is to have everybody in the organization always looking for better ways of doing things and stepping back and saying, oh, can we do this better? Take that to the next step is making sure they're empowered to do something about it. So frustration often can grow where people find issues but can't resolve them themselves. So we want to create a culture where everybody is empowered to not only identify how to make things better, but also has the tools to do that. And on this journey, because it is a journey, is we're always pursuing perfection. So we want to keep improving until everything the business does adds value to the customer. So with that in mind, and to achieve all those things, we're now going to jump into, well, how do we find time? One of the biggest reasons we hear why businesses struggle to create that culture of continuous improvement is that they're simply too busy. And we understand that. The business landscape's changed. Customers expect faster, high quality delivery for the same or lower rates. Performance expectations are increasing and budgets are either static or declining. So we're trying to do more with less. So we have to be clever in how we do this. Now, a couple little cartoons to get you thinking. This world of too busy. Too often our heads are down and we're just getting on with things without actually looking up and thinking, can we do this better? Here's our cavemen here, wheeling along their rocks with some square wheels. Too busy, got to carry on, got to get on with this. Where their mates there with some circle wheels to actually get them going, but they're too busy to look at him. What about this guy, chopping down a tree? Can't you see I'm too busy to talk to his mate who has a chainsaw? That would have made the job much easier. We have our knights going to war. I don't have time to see any crazy salesman. I have a battle to fight. Yes, but if he did have time for that salesman, he would have got some automatic weapons, which would have made that war much faster. And some Lego men in a boat. Sorry, we're too busy, got KPIs to hit. We'll just use our hands to move the boat along. But once again, their friends on the shore going, oh, guys, I've got an idea. How about oars? So this is very exaggerated, but it really drives home that concept that we're so busy, heads are down, we're just getting on with things. Whereas what happens if we actually had the time to look up and see how things could be done better, easier, differently? Well, that's what we're here to talk about, is how do we find the time to pull our head out and actually look at things? And what we found is the key to achieving that continuous improvement culture is to have an overarching organizational continuous improvement strategy. But the key to this is the 3 areas within it. So we have reactive improvement. This is the ability to rapidly identify issues or errors that impact delivery, resolve them, but most importantly, ensure the issues or errors do not occur again anywhere in the organization. This is linked to what we call effective daily management. Now, when we talk about reactive improvement, a lot of people just think of firefighting. There's an issue comes up, resolve it, get on with it, move on. What we're talking about here is, yes, you want to resolve it and move on, but stop for a second and reflect and say, what did we learn from that? How do we stop it from happening again? And reactive improvement is where we get the small wins. And lots of small wins add up to bigger wins, which free up time. So reactive improvement is such a critical thing to do well, because ultimately it's the one that's going to free up time in the end. The next part of the strategy is a stable work plan. Now, we all have grand schemes and missions to have our plan for the day, where everybody knows what they're doing and what they need to achieve, how much by when. The key to a stable work plan is having that, but ensuring that there's minimal disruptions. So we all start off well and we all have our plans, but often what happens is disruptions happen. Priorities change. Things need to be delivered quicker in a different order. I start the day and say, I'm going to deliver 1, 2, 3, and then my boss comes in and says, actually, we need 4 today. And it throws my day off, and I've now got to work on that instead of the other, and then I come back around and it's all fun and games. What we want to do as much as possible is work towards having a stable work plan that is not disrupted as often. And then the last one is proactive improvement. This is the one you all know about. These are the projects, the initiatives, the ones that we put the spotlight on and we talk about to everybody. People get exposure and experience by being in the groups, but they're the ones that are achieving our long-term vision. And when we look at all 3 together, what we often find is people are focusing on proactive improvement. They're doing a great job working towards their vision, but each time they go to work on it, something else pops up and they can't get the work done because it requires their time. Whereas if people start focusing on reactive improvement and their stable work plan, each day, just by doing a little bit and making small fixes, time will open up, and that will then allow them to focus on those big proactive improvement projects. And that's what we're going to look at now. So the 2 scenarios. Most common, people are focusing on proactive improvement and not on their reactive improvement, their daily management and getting things running smoothly. And what happens is, in this lovely graph, after many years, the first couple cycles, so the first project might work well, but after the second or third, they're really not making any progress towards that vision and that world-class performance they're trying to get to, because the time that they want to spend on proactive keeps being sucked back into firefighting. Whereas on our next slide, we have a graph. If we focus on reactive improvement up front, more time on that to free up small amounts of time over and over again, and then we invest that time back into proactive improvement, the time is there. So organisations that focus on achieving effective daily management through reactive improvement, so not just firefighting and fixing things, but looking at how do we make sure they don't happen again, they then find more time to work on their proactive improvement projects and initiatives. And that means that that vision that we're all working towards can be achieved within a more realistic time frame. So let's recap on that, and then I'll open it to questions. So to achieve a culture of continuous improvement and to find that mystery time that we all are too busy for, organisations need to focus and be very good at both reactive improvement and proactive. It's not one or the other. They need to work together. Unfortunately, many organisations get very caught up in their proactive projects and initiatives, and so they lose sight of the importance of getting effective reactive improvement and that stable work plan in place. Effective reactive improvement and a stable work plan through daily management are the critical foundations for proactive improvement activities, because without them, people are going to be distracted on a daily basis and not be able to put the time into the proactive improvement. So as you can see, the three areas are interlinked, and to work all of them work effectively, we need to invest as much time in our reactive improvement as we do to get to that time for proactive improvement. Let me stop there and see if there's any questions around that concept of reactive improvement, a stable work plan, and proactive improvement. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit more about reactive improvement. As you can see, this is where I'm heading in the direction of, because it's such a critical area. And as I said, because it's not the sexy big project, we tend to leave it to the side and not put enough attention onto it. So why is it important? Well, let me ask you a couple questions. Are you ever distracted with issues or problems that should not happen if everyone was doing their work correctly? So how often are you frustrated by those around you if they'd just done it right the first time? Do you ever find the same issue or problems repeating themselves? Same thing happening over and over again, but you just don't have time to get to the root cause of it. Or have you ever thought what it would be like if every day actually went to plan and you achieved all that you wanted to with time to spare? I know that's a bit of a dream, but it is what a culture of continuous improvement actually is. So I guess as you've answered yes to most of those, hopefully you have, and that's why you're here today. So let's reflect back on effective reactive improvement through daily management. I know I keep saying this, but this is the critical part. It's not just firefighting. It's not just identifying an issue or an error and fixing it and getting on with it and forgetting about it. The key is the ability to rapidly identify the issue and errors and recover from them for whatever's stopping you from delivering your expected plan and performance for the day. But the most important part, and this is the critical thing, is how do we put corrective actions in place so the issue or error will not reoccur anywhere across the organisation again. And that's where the daily management piece comes into it. We have 6 key elements of daily management that make this up and draw that focus into making sure these things don't happen over and over again. First one is putting appropriate measures in place. And we talked about this as one of the key lean principles is measurements. We want to have visuals on what should be achieved, what are our key success factors, what makes our day successful, and how are we tracking to that? Because it becomes another tool for us to identify where issues and errors are happening. If we're not meeting our targets, why are we not meeting them? What do we need to improve? How do we improve that? So by looking at these measures and tracking them on a daily basis, or even weekly, no longer than that, we want to be able to quickly identify where the problems are, where the pain points are. Having the right structure, so getting the right people together to talk about what's happened and how can it be improved. And we really want to make sure we're getting everybody involved. And this is empowering people, another one of our lean principles. Making sure that we've got the right people involved so they've got the ownership and accountability for their performance of their area of responsibility. Links into measures so they can see exactly what they're doing, what they're achieving, and if they're not achieving it, why not? Giving them the power to ask those questions and finding ways to resolve things. Our tool that we use to have these discussions is known as our daily review meetings. So in these meetings, it's a very, very quick stand-up where we're simply talking about opportunities. What were the issues, the errors, what's paused us, what stopped us from doing our job yesterday, our work, and monitoring our progress for a solution. And to do that, we use information centers. So in our daily stand-up, we stand around a board where we've got our measures on there so everybody can see how we're tracking, but also we've got things like an action list. So important. Who's doing what and by when to resolve the issues that we've raised? Does something need to be escalated? Do we need support from senior management or just even the level above or colleagues from other teams to help us resolve these issues and make sure they don't happen again? So our information center becomes our hub of all the key things that are happening so that we can keep track that we're actually moving in a direction of making things not happen again. Then we want to, once again, empowering everybody. This is a little bit further down the line. We always get the first 4 in place first, which is talking and making sure the issues and problems are being raised up and they can be discussed and solved. But eventually what we want to do is give everybody the skill set of root cause problem solving. That means as these problems arise, they can quickly identify what the root cause is. Not a, this will fix it for now, but really get to the root cause of things. And that skill set's one we want to build across an organization. That truly is a culture of continuous improvement, is when everybody has that skill set. And lastly is the rapid sharing of learning. So if we find a way to solve something, how do we share that across the organization so that other teams can benefit from what we've come up with? And what we often find is the things we raise in these meetings, in our daily management, those things that we find turn into feeding into our proactive improvement strategy. So those that we can't resolve quickly, we feed into a proactive improvement project. So that's where the 3 are being interlinked again in our strategy. So let's have a think. Reflect on your day. How did yesterday go? Did you achieve your plan for yesterday? If not, why not? What was the cause for pause? What stopped you from achieving your plan, your deliveries, your work for the day? What were the issues, the errors, the interruptions? Now, is that going to feed into today? Are you on track to achieve your plan for today? Is something from yesterday going to stop you, or something else that you know is going to come up that could stop you from achieving your plan from today? So, key question, how do we stop those issues and errors in the short term and get you back on track to achieve your plan? What can we do to resolve those points? And what do we need to do to ensure those issues and errors and disruptions don't reoccur anywhere across the organization again? So as you can see, short-term fixes, can we address it now? And if we are, Are we just solving it to keep us going, or are we getting to the root cause? Does this need to become a proactive project because it's bigger and there's more in-depth analysis needs to be done? But here's the trick to this. Okay, I just asked you to think about yesterday. What if I asked you to think about all of last week? How much do you remember? How much detail can you go into for those issues and those areas that happened? It gets trickier, huh? We're Wednesday. I probably could remember Monday, but all of last week? That leads us into this. What do you think's more effective then? Meeting 15 minutes a day to discuss what happened live while it's fresh in our mind and we can think of ways to fix it? Or a 2-hour meeting every week where we're trying to remember what happened, and sometimes that domino effect also comes into play. What may have happened on Monday we could have resolved by Friday's a much bigger issue. So daily management is daily for a reason. We want to bring these things to the forefront on a daily basis so that we can quickly resolve them. It does not have to be a long meeting. It just needs to be focused with our information board so that we can track exactly what's going on. And that leads us into what daily management is, which will be our topic in next month's webinar. So hopefully you guys can make that, and we'll dive a little bit more into those 6 areas of daily management and talk about how all of those work. So let's recap why we're here today, which was how to find time for continuous improvement. Well, I know it sounds like a quick fix, but it ultimately does come down to your daily management and your reactive improvement approach. Because by making all those small changes daily, by investing just 10 to 15 minutes a day, we can draw those things out, make some quick wins, small quick wins that free up time that then allow us to focus on those proactive improvement projects. And that is the secret to it all. So I'm going to hold there, and it's question time. Does anybody have any questions?
Okay, thank you very much, Rebecca. So if anyone does have any questions, simply press the raise your hand button or type in the question in the control panel box provided. We did get a question from Andrew Beck, and his question was, how do you prioritize proactive improvements?
Well, great question. It links into strategy. So when we're building our operational strategy, it needs to link in to the business strategy. And we're looking at the year ahead. So in terms of what's going to help us achieve our goals in the quickest way. So as we do in any planning exercise, we look at what the objectives are, what we're trying to achieve, and by when, and build that into our vision and strategy of what we're going for. So proactive improvement, because they're long-term projects, we need to look at all the different elements that help us in that decision-making process, which are the outcomes, the budget involved, the time required to achieve those things, and prioritize them based on that fact. Hope that answers that question.
Yeah, doesn't seem like we have any more questions.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. I'll pass you over to Nelson to wrap it up.
No worries, thank you, Beck. So before we get going, just a quick reminder that a recording of the webinar will be uploaded onto our YouTube channel this afternoon, so please feel free to share it with your colleagues. And if you do come up with any questions or think of some during the day, feel free to contact Rebecca or CTPM at any time, and we'll be happy to answer those questions for you. So on behalf of everyone at CTPM, thank you for attending, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day.